Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Sperber and I am a realtor in the Northern Nevada market. I make all kinds of content about living here, all the lifestyle things, and also, of course, all things to do with buying and selling real estate. So if you're thinking about any of that kind of stuff, you are in the right place. On today's video, I'm actually going to talk about reasons to avoid Reno. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I often promote our awesome city and this part of Nevada. It's amazing for so many reasons, but on today's video, I thought I would give you the other side of that coin and give you some of the reasons that you might be deterred from relocating here. So I like to keep it real, and that's exactly what I'm going to do today. So stay with me. If you stay till the end, I'm going to give you one bonus reason that you may not have thought of. The first reason you might not want to live here or enjoy living here is that we experience extreme weather. Today, the day of filming this, is the last week of August, and they are predicting for snow. Yes, it's above altitude. It's at like 8,500 feet and above, I think. It's been in the 80s, 90s, and even in the triple digits most of the summer. Even up until this last week, it's been in the 90s, and now we're already talking about snow. I don't know if we're just gonna skip right over fall this year or what, but just keep in mind you would have to be okay with constantly changing layers, having backup options for clothing in your car, like being prepared for snow literally at any moment, apparently, if you're gonna be comfortable living here. It's a temperamental place, given that it is high desert here. So we get extreme heat and extreme cold. The next thing we're going to talk about is the cost of living. I know in many of my previous videos I've said, and this is still true, so I wasn't lying, but when compared to cities of similar size, Reno is affordable, and that is true. However, there is this very misguided preconceived notion that Reno is like super cheap and super affordable and all this stuff. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that many of the people who relocate here are from California, where the cost of living is outlandish. Let's just call it what it is. In most places, especially the Bay Area and the LA and surrounding areas, it is so expensive, and that's normal for a coastal state. However, if you're not coming from California, if you're coming from, let's say, somewhere in the Midwest, the prices here are not going to feel inexpensive. It's not really affordable like it once was. And I'm gonna give you an example. The first home I ever purchased here back in 2012, I got a 3-bedroom in a really adorable neighborhood, really close to downtown and everything, but far enough away to not feel unsafe. It was $160,000. And that same home now is easily probably worth about $450,000 to $500,000. I don't own it anymore, but just to give you an example, like that preconceived notion is a thing of the past. Another thing that you should be aware of that would maybe deter you from wanting to live here is that our public transportation is not good. It's really, really limited, very limited. We have a bus system. It's very gritty. The routes that it takes are very limited. It doesn't go all night. There's no light rail here. I guess, if you're somebody who's comfortable with relying on rideshare like Uber or Lyft, that's great. We have a lot of that, and it's generally pretty reliable, even at weird hours when you're trying to get to the airport. So that's an option, but that does get expensive. So if you are someone who does not like driving, does not own a car, under the guise that you're just gonna walk to work, unless you're living and working downtown or somewhere, with that possibility, this is not a walkable city at all. And our transportation is awful. Okay, this next one's a really big one, and it's really unfortunate, and it's one of my least favorite things about living here, and that is air quality. 75 to 85% of life here, you're in beautiful mountain air with clear blue skies, and weather is very pleasant. However, during wildfire season, it can be really, really tough. It gets very smoky. It does depend on, how close the nearest fire is and what's on fire. If it's, forest, then it's just like normal fire. If it's a community and there are people's houses burning and whatever else, like it's very toxic. And if you remember, I don't know, it was all over national and I think even international news, but back in, it was either 2021 or 2022, the Caldor fire was dangerously close. It was in South Lake Tahoe. South Lake Tahoe got evacuated, like all residences, all businesses. everyone was asked to leave because it was that close. It was super dangerous and super scary, but the smoke even here in Reno was so thick, you couldn't even, when you were driving, you couldn't even see the car in front of you. All right, this next one could be a positive or a negative. For me, I guess, I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence, is that Reno has a really big gambling culture. Now, personally, I'm not a gambler. I never gamble. Like, I just think it's reckless and wasteful. I think my risk adversity is better spent on other things. With that, comes casino culture and nightlife and entertainment and all the things that gaming culture kind of fosters in a community. So there are pros and cons, but I think honestly, like, our downtown is one of the worst parts of our city. The heart of our downtown is a bunch of casinos, right? And so, they do have productions and shows and restaurants, but I think it would just be so much cooler if there were more like boutique shops and better food options. Not to say that Reno doesn't have all of that, just most of it isn't downtown, and I think the biggest thing standing in the way are the casinos. The kind of uniqueness that comes with that is not something to be shied away from or completely turned off. It's honestly, it's endearing to me, but just something that you should be aware of in case you are thinking of relocating here. The next thing on my list of reasons why to avoid Reno is that our job market is getting competitive. We have people moving here from all over the place all the time, and trust me, now the job market is somewhat competitive, so you're going to want to make sure that you really fine-tune that resume, maybe make sure that you have a game plan in place before you even consider relocating here. There are a lot of headhunters and scouts that are in various industries, but you're going to want to make sure that you have your ducks in a row as far as that goes. Don't just assume that you're going to come here and land your dream job, because a lot of people already on the ground here are not having that experience. The next reason to potentially avoid relocating to Reno, and this one is a really big one in my book, especially given where I live in town, traffic. Oh my gosh, we never, ever had traffic. When I moved here, it was like a guarantee you could get anywhere in Reno within 15 minutes, no matter what time of day. Now we have rush hour, and I know if you're watching this and you're in, say, Miami, New York City, LA, any of these like big metropolis cities, you're like laughing right now, and I get it. Like, it's not on that level by any means. Compared to the fact that we had none at one point not that long ago, it just is frustrating. And on top of that, there is always road work. You cannot avoid it. Another reason to potentially avoid relocating to Reno and the surrounding areas is that it is desert, right? We do have some concern about droughts and about conserving water and resources. I've never seen it to a point where it was like a dire emergency, but what I have seen many times is that they will limit watering. So if your street number is an even number, you can only water on certain days, or odd, you get what I'm saying. So you're gonna wanna just keep that in mind if you're somebody that, has a huge vegetable garden and you're gonna live in a suburban neighborhood. You might wanna keep that on your radar. All right, you guys have been super patient, and I did let you know in the beginning of this video that if you stayed until the end, I would reward you with a last bonus and unexpected reason to avoid Reno, and that is that, believe it or not, we are actually in a place of lots of seismic activity, and earthquakes are actually a legitimate threat here. To my knowledge, there has not been a recent earthquake that has caused any damage. However, I had an interesting conversation with my home insurance provider, and it is on the radar, and they do offer coverage, but they do charge for it. So you're gonna wanna keep that in mind. All right, you guys, I wanna know, is there anything else you are curious about? If you're thinking about moving here, if you live here already and there's something I might have missed, feel free to drop it in the comments below. I do always respond to every single comment that is left, so go ahead and reach out. And hey, if you are thinking about making a move to our area, or if you are here and you're thinking about leaving and you need help selling your property, I can help with either one of those things. You can feel free to book a call with me. There's a link to do that in the description box below. It's no obligation, just an opportunity for us to connect, see if we're a good fit to work together. At the very least, get your questions answered and put a winning strategy in place for you. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button. I put out new videos every single week about the Northern Nevada lifestyle, the Reno Sparks housing market, and of course, all things to do with buying and selling real estate. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.